ومن أخطر ما ينادي به الأشرار اليوم من دعاة الضلال تأثرا بدعوة الكفار نزع الحجاب عن المرأة. يريدون أن المرأة تنزع الحجاب الذي أمرها الله به وأمرها به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم، الذي فيه صيانتها وكرامتها وحفظها. ينادون الآن بنزع الحجاب، وأن تكون المرأة المسلمة مثل المرأة الكافرة. يريدون أن تنزل المرأة المسلمة من عليائها وكرامتها وتكون مثل المرأة الكافرة، مبتذلة مهانة، لا يحفظ لها كرامة. ما دامت المرأة عندهم شابة يستمتعون بها بالحلال والحرام ولا يصونونها، وإذا كبرت سنها ألقوها في الملاجئ، ما له أسرة، ما له بيت، ما له أولاد، تلقى في الملاجئ وتلقى في بيوت المسنين، ما له من يراعيها، أو تعيش وحدها ما عندها أنيس، تمرض وتموت ما يدرى عنها، ليس عندها إلا كلب تربيه يونسها الكلب. هذه المرأة عند الكفار وفي الغرب. أما المرأة عند المسلمين فكما تعلمون المرأة سيدة البيت، راعية البيت، مربية الأولاد، حافظة لمال زوجها، لها سيادة ولها مكانة، مكرمة مصونة، لا تسافر إلا ومعها ذو محرم يمشي معها، ما يحميها ويحفظها ويخدمها، ما تختلط مع الرجل، ما تخلو مع رجل لا يحل، ما تخلو إلا مع رجل من محارمها أو رجل تحل له كزوجها، مصونة، لا تختلط مع الرجال وتزاحم الرجال. هذه المرأة المسلمة التي تحتفظ بكرامتها ومكانتها عزتها. ولذلك صار مجتمع المسلمين ولله الحمد مجتمعا طاهرا نزيها. الرجال يعرفون أعمالهم والنساء تعرف أعمالها، وكل يقوم بعمله اللائق به، ويحصل التعاون. إذا ضيعت المرأة وأخرجت عن طبيعتها ضاع المجتمع، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. وليس ذلك في صالح المرأة، هذا مضرة على المرأة، مضرة على المرأة، إنها تشتغل طول النهار في العمل، تكد وتكدح في المصانع، في المتاجر، في الوظيفة، وهي امرأة ضعيفة تحيض وتحمل وتمرض، ما تستطيع. فهم يريدون أن يغيروا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها، لكن أنى لهم ذلك؟ لا تبديل لخلق الله أبدا. الله خلق الرجال وخلق النساء وأعطى كلا ما يليق به، فليحاول يغير خلق الله لن يستطيع هذا. فعلى المسلمين أن يتنبهوا لذلك وما يراد بهم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Hope everybody's doing well. What a beautiful day it's been so far. Yesterday we had a fascinating discussion with our brother Yemeni. If you haven't seen that stream which took place yesterday, the topic was the Jewish tribe Banu Qurayza. So go ahead and watch that, rewatch it if you can, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel CovFF. We are live on CovFF and my Rumble channel, and also consider this TV network. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh to the brothers and sisters joining us right now. I have a very interesting show or a debate planned, inshallah ta'ala. Joining me, as you can see, we have the Muslim apologist. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Hello, everyone. So glad to be here. Always, alhamdulillah.
Yeah. I just want to remind the brothers and sisters that this debate was planned within a couple of days or so. So I do apologize on my behalf that I didn't really advertise it as quickly as I could. As soon as I got the thumbnail and the information, then of course I uploaded everything and started to promote this debate. Nevertheless, as you can see, there's only two of us. Me, Muhammad, is not going to debate the Muslim apologist. It's another brother. His name is Muhammad. I think he lives in Turkey. We are waiting for him to arrive. We've emailed him now. I've emailed him on numerous occasions. I'm waiting for a response from him. I'm hoping that he'll join us. And we can start with the debate, the official debate. Let me just run down with the debate format. The debate format will be 10 minutes from each debater, opening statements. And then the Muslim apologist will be going first, and the other, Muhammad, will go second. Then between 2 to 30 minutes, an open discussion, back and forth, which is always interesting. And then towards the end, it'll be a 5-minute closing statements from each debater. And then 20 minutes Q&A from you, brothers and sisters, who will be able to jump on and ask direct questions to each of the debaters. As you can see, the name of the debate is Quran versus Hadith. For me, that is like a no-brainer, but many people probably will disagree with me. Both the Quran and the Hadith are, subhanallah, important, very, very important. The Islam cannot be based. The Sunnah cannot be based without the Sunnah. So the Sunnah cannot be based without Islam. You need the Sunnah to base the religion of Islam. The Sunnah meaning the Hadith. The Hadith are very, very important. Authentic narrations are very, very important in the religion of Islam and inside the Muslim creed. So we are waiting for Muhammad to join. Oh, have I just got an email or... Yep, I've got an email. Let me see if it's from him. Okay. Hey, bro, what's going on? Debate starts. You sent me a message. Sorry, brothers. You just sent me a message asking me, hey, what's going on? I'm sure. So the email he sent me is like 5 p.m. UK time on the 1st of February. I am in Istanbul time zone, so it would be around 8 p.m. for me, which would work good for me. So the email I received from him confirming he's happy with the 1st of February at 5 p.m. UK time. So I have sent him the link. I am waiting. Brother, the Muslim apologist, can you confirm that you also got the link, right? Because I don't want to make any excuses. Because
No, I have. I have definitely gotten the link from you through the email.
I need the link. I already sent the link, brother.
Why don't you send it to him again if he's asking for it? Yeah.
Yeah, let me send it again.
He might have missed it. I don't know.
1 second.
No worries. Take your time. Yeah.
Copy the link.
By the way, I hope there's no background noise because right now my son is really going at it with the PlayStation 5 in the background.
No, cool. What game is he playing? Is he playing?
He's playing some YouTube videos actually on the PS5.
Yeah, I've just sent him the link again. I'm just waiting for him to turn
All
up.
right. Yeah. So he has confirmed that he'll be coming.
Yeah, he said send
Right.
me the link. I've already sent him the link, as you know, because you were in the group also. So if
Yes.
you had the group, and there was a beeping noise.
There's a beeping noise. Yeah, that's probably from my son. Yeah. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
No, there's always one in the chat. You know, there's always one in the chat who always complains. Okay, the brother is backstage. Brother, you happy to come on? Just give me a thumbs up. Are you set to come on?
Yeah.
Okay, he said give him a couple of minutes, I
Okay.
think. Let him
All
just
right.
set
Yeah.
up.
Take your time. Yeah. No worries.
Give me a thumbs up when you're happy to come onto the stage. Okay, he's happy to come on stage now. Okay, fantastic. Okay, welcome to the show. My name is Muhammad. On my right is the Muslim Apologist, and below me is Muhammad also. So I don't want brothers to get confused because there are two Muhammads.
We're gonna have to distinguish Muhammad 1 and Muhammad 2 or something like this because otherwise the audience
yeah.
will be confused.
And did you, brothers and sisters, know that here in the UK, Muhammad is the top of the list when it comes to names of boys here in the UK? Which,
Yeah.
subhanAllah, there's three people here on the panel, and two of them are Muhammad, and it's just like amazing.
My name, by the way, my name is Muhammad too in front. Yeah, I have a Muhammad too. So technically there's three people here with Muhammad. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to meet everybody. Peace. Thank you for reaching out for this debate, and hopefully we cover some good grounds. And thank you very much for hosting me, Muhammad.
No, it's fine. It's fine it's good to have you here, brother. I'm a very hospitable individual. I'm not one to be negative. I'm very open to suggestions and ideas and people's views, and I respect everybody's views and opinions. So we'll kick off the show. If there's anything that you would like to say, guys, before we officially kick the show off and officially set the debate in flow, anything you brothers want to say?
I'm good. God bless the messengers. That's about it.
Okay. The Muslim Apologist, anything that you would like to say?
Nothing in particular, I guess. We can go ahead once you give the green light. Yeah.
Okay. As you can see on the screen there, it was agreed amongst the two gentlemen that it will be the debate format, as you can see, is 10-minute opening statements from each debater, 20 to 30 minutes open discussion, and then 5-minute closing statements with a 20-minute Q&A from the brothers and sisters in the chat. I don't mind it going over 30 seconds or a minute. I'm not going to be really too strict on the time, if that's okay with the brothers. If it goes over a minute, then I'll say, guys, you need to slow it down. If it goes over 35 seconds or 45 seconds, it's not a problem. We can hopefully deal with that, if that's okay. We agreed, or the younger Muhammad agreed that the Muslim Apologist will go first with his opening statements, and then the younger Muhammad will respond. Okay, so let me just set my time. Okay, as soon as you start speaking, the Muslim Apologist will get the clock going.
But sorry, is it possible, Brother Muhammad, like if you could mute your mic when he's talking? It's just because there is a background noise. It's very slight, but it's just there.
That's him. I think that is.
I think the background noise from me. Yeah, it's from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome to this debate. And Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain amma ba'd. So today I stand before you to argue that the hadiths are not merely a supplementary aspect of Islam, but it is an essential and inseparable part of it. To understand Islam fully, we must recognize that its practice and interpretation rely on two primary sources, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as transmitted through authentic hadith. This perspective is firmly rooted in Quranic directives, the Prophet's teachings, and centuries of scholarly tradition. Let us begin with the primary source, which is, of course, the Quran, which lays the foundation for the authority of hadith. In Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 59, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands, O you who have believed, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those in authority among you. This verse establishes a clear divine injunction. Obedience to the messenger is inseparable from obedience to Allah. The Prophet's guidance, encapsulated in his sayings, actions, and approvals, is preserved in the Hadith literature. Without these records, the practical implementation of Quranic principles would remain incomplete and open to misinterpretation. Similarly, we look at Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 33, verse 21, which states, "There has certainly been for you in the messenger of Allah an excellent pattern for anyone who hope is in Allah and the last day." Here, the Quran presents the Prophet's life as a model for conduct. But how do we access this model? It is through the hadiths that we gain detailed insights into the Prophet's actions, allowing us to emulate his example in our daily lives. The Quran provides broad principles, but it is the hadith that offers the practical details necessary for implementation. Consider the command to establish prayer, found in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 43. While the Quran emphasizes the importance of prayer, it does not specify the number of daily prayers, their timings, or how they should be performed. It is through hadith that Muslims learn the specifics, such as the 5 daily prayers, the method of ablution or wudu, and the recitations during the salah. For example, the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari describes the Prophet's methods of performing wudu step by step. Without such narrations, the uniformity and consistency of Islamic worship would be lost, leading to varied and potentially incorrect practices. This demonstrates how hadith complements the Quran, transforming abstract commands into concrete actions. Beyond ritual practices, hadiths play a pivotal role in Islamic jurisprudence or fiqh. Early scholars relied on hadith interpreting Quranic verses and deriving legal rulings on matters not explicitly detailed in the Quran. The principles of Islamic law, such as ijma or consensus and qiyas, analogical reasoning, are often grounded in the hadiths. A famous hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari states, "Whoever introduces into this affair of ours something that is not part of it, it will be rejected." This narration underscores the importance of adhering strictly to the Prophet's teachings, ensuring that innovations do not distort the original practice of Islam. It also highlights the role of hadith as a safeguard, preserving the purity and authenticity of Islamic teachings. Some critics may argue that the existence of weak or fabricated hadiths undermine the reliability of hadith literature. However, Islamic scholarship has developed rigorous methodologies to address this concern. Scholars like Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim dedicated their lives to compiling collections of authentic hadiths, employing stringent criteria to evaluate the isnad or chain of transmission and the credibility of narrators in Kitab al-Rijal, for example. This meticulous process ensures that only reliable narrations are accepted as sources of guidance. Moreover, the diversity of hadith collections allow scholars to cross-reference narrations, further strengthening their authenticity. Thus, the hadith literature stands as a trustworthy and integral part of Islamic tradition. Hadith is not limited to just legal and ritual matters. It also provides profound moral and ethical lessons. The Prophet's interactions with people from all walks of life, whether children, the poor, or even his adversaries, demonstrate values such as compassion, humility, and justice. For instance, numerous hadiths recount the Prophet's kindness to children, his forgiveness of enemies, and his emphasis on caring for neighbors and the less fortunate. A striking example is found in Surah Abasa, chapter 80, verse 1 to 10, where Allah says, He frowned and turned away. Without the context, this verse might be understood as criticism of the Prophet's character. However, hadiths explain what this verse was about. It was revealed in connection with an incident involving a blind man by the name of Ibn Maktum. The Prophet's momentary distraction was followed by remorse and a reaffirmation of his commitment to equality and compassion. This context provided by hadith enriches our understanding of the Quran and highlights the Prophet's exemplary character. Finally, the dynamic nature of hadith interpretation ensures that Islamic thought remains relevant across time and cultures. While the Quran is immutable, the hadith provides a flexible framework for addressing new challenges. Contemporary scholars use hadiths to address modern issues such as bioethics, environmental conservation, and social justice. This adaptability shows the enduring relevance of the Prophet's teachings. In conclusion, hadiths are an essential and inseparable part of Islam. They provide the practical, ethical, and legal guidance necessary to implement the Quranic teachings in daily life. By upholding the importance of hadith, we honor the legacy of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ensure that Islamic practice remains rooted in a comprehensive and coherent tradition. The Quran and Hadith together form the foundation of Islam, guiding Muslims to both faith and practice. Thank you for your attention, and may Allah grant us the wisdom to understand and uphold His guidance. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, the Muslim Apologist, that was just under 8 minutes. If you want to continue for another 2 minutes, or are you happy to pass those minutes off? And
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah. I mean, it's
Okay.
all right. Yeah.
Okay. Initially, when I opened the show, I kind of said a statement, and I was wrong in the statement. The statement is from Asul Sunnah, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal's book, Asul Sunnah, the Foundations of the Sunnah. And the first statement of Imam Ahmad is that the Sunnah is Islam, and without the Sunnah, there is no Islam. So that's how important the Sunnah is within the creed of the Muslim belief. So that was, I wanted to correct that statement. That's from the opening chapter of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal's book, Asul Sunnah. I just wanted to clarify that. So, Muhammad, I will bring you onto the main stage, and as soon as you start speaking, I will start the clock. Okay. Okay, there you are.
Peace. Thank you very much for hosting me. Peace be upon everybody. Peace upon all the messengers. And well, Islam actually existed before the Quran. This is something that we all know. God in the Quran tells us clearly that we should be following the creed and the mentality of Abraham. And that was even inspired to the Prophet. So the Prophet himself was told, and then we inspire to you, O Prophet Muhammad, to follow the creed of Abraham. So from the people who understood what Islam is, Abraham was the closest to understanding it and fulfilling it. Now, if you look at the Quran, there are many, many verses where the Quran says that it's complete, that it's concise, and it has everything that you need for guidance. So, for example, in chapter 1689, God says, "We have revealed the book to you as a clarification for all things, and as a guidance and a mercy, and good news for the submitters." And God also says in chapter 2 that that God sends that the humans were one nation, and then God sent the prophets in truth and brought down the books with them so that he could judge between the people what they used to differ in. So God sends the book to the prophets so that the people can be able to judge when there's a difference. So for example, now I'm saying that the Quran is complete and sufficient for guidance, while this gentleman is saying that the Quran is actually telling you that the Quran cannot be complete unless you look for an outside source that was recorded by other people, that the Quran standalone is not sufficient for you to find salvation on the day of judgment. So in chapter 6, 114 of the Quran, God says, "So shall I seek judge other than God, while he is the one who has revealed to you the book explained in detail, and those to whom we have given the book know that it has been revealed from your Lord in truth. So do not be of the doubters." So the book is the one that is revealing the truth. Because if you go again in the if you go to page, and if you go to chapter 5, God says that people of the book, our messenger has come to you to clarify much of what you used to conceal of what? Of the book, while overlooking much. There has come to you from God a light and a clear book, by which God guides those who follow his approvals to the way of peace and brings them out of darknesses into the light by his permission and guides them to the straight path. So with the book that God has sent on his blessed prophet Muhammad, this book is the entity that will guide us to the straight path on how to treat each other. So we're saying things like Islam is based upon the Quran and the Hadith, and that is how you achieve Islam, and this is how we practice Islam, where God is telling you Islam is the submission, you're submitting your will to God. So God is the one who's dictating your reality. You put God as your Lord, and God gives you all the details on what you need to do to achieve a life that is meaningful, between a relationship between you and God, and making this world a better place for everybody around you. Unfortunately, when we're going to get to it, the Hadith is not very concise as what the Quran says in regards to what needs to be done. So God also says that in chapter 41:3, God says it's a book whose verses have been elaborated, reading for people who know. Elaborated means the verses have been clarified within the book itself, because God is also telling us in chapter 12, 111, there is certainly a lesson in their story for the people, the prophets and the people that God has mentioned in the book. There's certainly a lesson in the story for those of intelligence. It was not a fabricated discourse, but a confirmation of what was before it, i.e. the book, and an elaboration for all things, and a guidance and a mercy for people who believe. Okay, so the book itself is a elaboration of all things. So if they're saying the book requires elaboration and their hadith is elaborating the Quran, so who's elaborating the hadith? They put their hands on the scholars and say the scholars is going to tell you exactly what you need to believe and what not to believe. When God says that the Quran itself, one, is the guidance, and that God himself will teach you the Quran if you ponder about it. But yet using your logic and reasons in the Sunni religion is something that's frowned upon. And God says that if you are not pondering on the Quran, and if you're not reflecting it and finding yourself a place in the Quran and how the people are around you, you're not going to find the guidance. You're just following blindly what your forefathers have been doing. And then there's also, God says that in chapter 752, and we have certainly brought them a book which we have detailed by knowledge as guidance and a mercy for people who believe. Now, for us, as people who follow the Quran, God told us that it's complete. It has everything, and it's an elaboration to all things. It's a clarification to all things, of course, when it comes to your guidance in your religion. And God clearly says something that is very concise to how we know that it's from God. God says in chapter 482, do they not contemplate the Quran? And has it been from other than God? They would have found numerous contradictions therein. So God is saying that if something is claiming that it's a revelation from God and you found many contradictions within it, then how can it be from God? Because God is not going to contradict himself. But now when we go to just Sahih hadith, the things that they love to say that it's also revelation from God and therefore you have to go, there are many numerical inconsistencies. So for example, some hadiths in regards to the Prophet having sex with all his wives in a single night or with a single bath, that was done by either 9 wives or 11 wives. Yet these matters of trying to keep your privacy between you and your wives, no, the people are going out and telling that the Prophet is spending most of his nights having sex with his wives, when God in the Quran says that God knows that the Prophet was staying a half, a third, or 2/3 of the night. And then we get to even bigger contradictions. So in book 60 of Sahih Bukhari, the Prophet walked in the Kaaba and he saw a picture of Ismail and Abraham. And he was really upset that people were putting pictures in the Kaaba. But in the hadith literally next to it, the Prophet doesn't walk in the Kaaba, but he refused to walk in because he saw a picture of Abraham and Mary. These are things that are called contradictions. I understand people are apologists, but when it comes to revelation of God, you're not going to find this in the Quran. These are things that are not coming from God. These are things coming from other people's words. Now, when it comes down to the concepts of where Bukhari found his hadith and all the other nonsense that people like to say that it's from God, there is no Quran where we're going to say like this is a weak verse or this is a strong verse or an authentic verse. Bukhari memorized 600,000 hadith and he only gave you 7,000 hadith. So 99% of it was not deemed worthy of him to say that this is authentic hadith. So the amount of lying that was happening in regards to all the other books was something that is not credible. Now, when we come down just to the basics of the Quran, God in the Quran says divorce is twice. The hadith says it's 3 times. When it comes down to dealing with adulterers, you're supposed to lash them in the Quran. These people tell you have to stone them. And right now, the Muslim apologist gave you a hadith. He goes, and he misquoted it. He goes, if someone is judging by what is not found with us, then we reject it. But the hadith says it's like whoever is judging with laws outside of the book of God, don't take it. That's the actual hadith. It's saying that if you find laws outside of the book of God, you shouldn't accept it. So things like banning gold, banning silk, banning wearing red is haram, not eating certain foods when God detailed in the Quran what is forbidden to you, adding things to the religion as a whole and saying that if you do not perform these certain things and talk in the way that we're telling you to talk, then you're going to hell. In fact, in hadith in the Sahih that they follow, there's many hadiths that says that anyone who says La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, then these individuals, who are not very good people, they will burn in hell for a little bit and then they are casted to heaven. Muhammad himself will rescue them from heaven, even though God says, وَمَا أَنْتَ, you are not going to save whoever's in hell. But that's not the bad part. In chapter 3, God clearly states that, did you see the people who were given a portion of the book and they were told to come judge what's in the book, yet they turn away. Why do they turn away? Because they say that the fire will not touch us except a few days, right? Yaman ma'dudat, a few days. And because they say this, right? One, they're lying about God. It's not the truth. Whoever goes in hell, they're in it forever. But they are making lies upon God and then they're associating it to the Prophet. Now, they say that Prophet is the best human being that ever lived, and you can ask the Muslim apologists later. But yet in the hadith, it shows that Abraham is better than him. It shows that Jonas is better than him. It shows that Joseph is better than him. It says, do not say that he's better than Moses. So there's all these hadiths that they themselves don't adhere, because unfortunately, what their religion fell into is idolatry. They idolize the Prophet. They don't follow the Prophet, because if you're going to follow the Prophet, you have to follow his mentality and his worldview. His worldview is detailed in the Quran. When you try to understand the Quran and ponder the Quran and you become a walking Quran like they associate the Prophet to, then you know what you need to do. God told us in the book many times that he brought the book down to the Prophet so that we could judge with it, not with, and sufficient is God. Yet to them, that's not sufficient, even though one of the verses in the Quran goes, isn't sufficient for them that we brought down the Quran to you, recited to you in truth. They say, no, it's not sufficient. We need the Quran and we need something else. And this is my 10 minutes.
Okay, that was the opening 10 minutes from each debater. Let me just remind you of the format again. We've gone through the first stage of 10 minutes, as you can see, opening statements. The next will be 20 to 30 minutes open discussion between two interlocutors. And then, of course, towards the end, we'll have a Q&A. So please stay tuned. I will be putting the link in the chat for everybody to join in and ask questions. Again, I've got to correct myself, brothers and sisters. The narration was not from Imam Ahmad. It was actually from Imam Barbahari. I'lamu inna al-Islam huwa sunnah wa sunnati hiya al-Islam. Let me quickly translate. Imam Barbahari say, rahimahullah ta'ala, know that Islam is the sunnah and the sunnah is Islam, and one of them cannot be established without the other. I initially said it was
brother. You're the moderator.
No,
I don't understand
brother.
why you're giving a lesson about sunnah. And literally, we're talking about the book is judging, and you're telling me about names that have nothing to do with the debate, nor does it have to do with anything. So I'm not sure if this is a valid point for you to correct yourself. Maybe you should do it after the debate.
Thank you, brother, for your statement. Don't get agitated, brother. Before you came on live, I was just talking with the brother, and I made a statement, and it was a wrong statement. So I don't want the brothers and sisters to go look for this statement from a particular book, and it's not there. So I wanted to correct myself. I think as Muslims, I'm sure you agree that if you say something and you say it incorrect, you want to correct yourself because you don't want to misguide people.
I do, but I think there is a proper place for you to correct yourself, not in the middle
Well,
of
this is my place. This is my place.
But
this
you're
is my
moderating a
place.
debate between me and
yeah, but this is my place.
Sure,
this
sure.
is my place.
That's
Thank
very
you.
just. Very just.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Brother, you have 20 to 30 minutes now, open discussion. Feel free. I'm going to kind of like drop down and become a smaller person. So there you go, guys. I'll start the clock. And who wants to go first?
Well, I mean,
Sure.
The brother here, he said that there's a good example in the prophet, and therefore now we need to look at other material for us to understand the good pattern that was in the prophet when he said 33:21. But the exact same thing was said about Abraham in chapter 60, verse 4. God says that there was a good pattern in Abraham. You could shake your head, but you can go look at the verse as well. So I know we have a good pattern in the prophet because we see how the prophet was thinking in the Quran, but it's as God says that the closest to Abraham are the people who followed Abraham and this prophet, meaning Prophet Muhammad, and the believers. So we're trying to understand the creed of Abraham.
Yeah. So how do you define the creed of Abraham without the hadith? What is your definition of the creed of Abraham?
Abraham's worldview and the way that he approached his Lord and the way that he had a relationship with his Lord, which is completely detailed in the Quran. But that doesn't change the fact when you were also talking about 4:59, you're saying obey God and obey the messenger, and therefore obey God is the Quran and obey the messenger is the hadith at that point?
Yes, it means that obeying Allah means basically it means the Quran, and obeying the messenger. How do you obey the messenger without understanding his actions, his words, his deeds? That is all recorded in the hadith. So it's basically to follow Sunnah. Yeah.
Why? Well, that's your interpretation. But if you look at the Quran, it dispels what you're saying. Because if you're saying that the Quran is the word of God and the Hadith is the word of the Prophet, so why does in chapter 69, verse 40, it says it is the word, it being the Quran, it is the word of an honorable messenger, and it is not the word of a poet. So God is clearly attributing the word of God that is coming down on Prophet Muhammad to the sayings of Prophet Muhammad. So if I want to know what Prophet Muhammad was preaching and what he was saying to people, I would look at the Quran. It is a book from God, but it's the book of Muhammad, and I can prove it because God says, وَمِن قَبْلِهِ كِتَابُ مُوسَى. So he goes before it, the book of Moses. This is in chapter, believe. So why is God, 46:16, God is saying that he sent a book to Moses, and he called it the book of Moses. So God sent the book to Muhammad, and that's the book of Muhammad.
Yeah, because it was sent to Moses, and the Quran was sent to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So of course it's the book of Muhammad, but it's not the word. It's not the word of Muhammad. It's the word of God.
But it says it is a word of an honorable messenger. It's not saying it's the word of God, which does come from God, but it's the word of an honorable messenger.
That is why you need to refer to the Sirah. What is the context of that verse being revealed? It was in response to the Kuffar, the Quraysh, the pagan Quraysh, who were accusing the Prophet coming out with words on his own. So the Quran is actually defending the Prophet by
No,
saying that
wait,
these are
but
the words of an honorable man.
okay,
That's what it's
so
saying. That's what it's saying. It's not saying that the Quran is basically one and the same with the Prophet or anything of the sort. That that details are found only in the Quran. It doesn't has any relation to do, no real relation with the Sunnah. Yeah.
okay, but when God is attributing, so God is attributing the word back to the Prophet, and now you're saying that it's not also the word of an honorable messenger. That this
It is
is
the word of an honorable messenger. That's not that,
okay.
that's
So
the
if I
whole
want to
point.
find the word of an honorable messenger, where do I find it?
You have to find it in the hadiths as well, not just the
But
Quran.
God just literally
Yeah.
said it's the Quran. No. I'm asking just about this verse. It's saying it's a word of an honorable messenger. So where do I
Yes.
find this word?
That is why
Because it's
you
saying
need to look into.
it's a single. It's
Yeah.
not dual. Nowhere does
Yeah,
God talk about two revelations.
I think you're conflating things because you see this is a
Oh.
specific context where it talks about where it's referring to an incident involving the Prophet and in opposition to his opponents from the pagan Quraysh. So this particular verse has nothing whatsoever to do about the Sunnah in general. It's basically defending the Prophet from the accusations. That's all it means. Yeah, nothing more than that.
So you did say that the Quran doesn't talk about the timings of the prayer. Is that something that you said?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there's no
So when
specific,
God says in
there's no
chapter
specific
11,
timing. Yeah, there's no
when God
specific
says
timing.
there is specific timing. When God is saying in the chapter 11, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ, so perform the prayer at the two ends of the day. And then he clarifies it in chapter 17 when God says, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ, so perform the prayer from the setting of the sun to the twilight of the night, وَقُرْآنِ الْفَجْرِ, and the recitation of the morning or Fajr. So these are two timings that are specifically announced in the Quran, which you yourself you do, because you said you have 5 salahs. But just out of curiosity, when you're praying in congregations, which salahs do you say out loud and which ones do you not say out loud?
That is why I follow the messenger. That's what the messenger has taught me. You see.
But I understand. You attribute it to the messenger, just like how Christians attribute that Jesus said to them that he's a son of God. We know that's false. So
I think that's totally
saying,
different. That's a totally different thing.
It isn't different. It isn't different because they also blame their scholars and whatnot. But you didn't answer my question. When you guys are praying your 5 prayers, how many prayers do you say out loud in a congregation, and how many are you silent?
Let's see. Zuhur, Asr, 2. Yeah.
So 2 of them are silent, and 3 of them you say out loud. Now, God in chapter 17, at the end of chapter 17, God is saying, do not be loud, very loud in your prayer, and do not be silent in your prayer, but find the middle path. So you guys do that for the 2 ends of the day, as God says, the Fajr and Maghrib. So that's exactly how God said it in the Quran. And the other 2 times you guys are quiet. That's not a prayer.
That particular verse is not about the salah. It's about an incident involving the Sahaba who were reading the Quran too loud in the masjid. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala came with the revelation saying that do not.
It's about what?
Recite the prayer too loud. Yeah, it's an incident involving the Sahaba who were reading their.
Okay, so God is saying to not recite the.
This is this is also in the Sirah.
Right. So do not recite.
Yeah.
No. This is just an interpretation. We can see it as it is in this day and age. God is telling you, do not be loud and do not be soft. So why are you guys being silent in 2 prayers when you're not in a point of danger? Now you're saying that the reason this verse appeared because people used to insult the Quran. Now nobody's insulting the Quran, and there is no kuffar Quraysh, but you guys are still silent in 2 prayers. Why? Where does that come from?
I didn't say anything about insulting the Quran. I'm saying that this was a specific incident involving the Sahaba who were reading the Quran too loud in the masjid, which disturbed the.
Can you show me that source, because that's not what it says.
I don't recall the specific hadith, but you can look it up. Yeah.
No, I did look it up. What you're saying is inaccurate. This is just your own interpretation, but God did not reveal that.
It is in the hadith sources,
No. You have to bring it because actually in your own books, there was 2 reasons why this
I'm going to have to
dig, because there's a difference in interpretation. It's saying that the Prophet, when he used to pray, used to be allowed, and the people used to insult the Prophet and insult the Quran. So God revealed his verse, so he doesn't become way too loud and not to be soft and only for the people to hear him. That is one interpretation. And then the second interpretation, they're saying that this is not even about prayer. This is about dua. And then Abu Ja'far al-Tabari, he's saying it's more concise in regards to the prayer. But the interpretation you gave was not actually part of anybody's way of viewing
I'm going to have
it.
to
But
look
that's
it.
the
I'm going to
problem
have
with
to look it up
Sunnism.
later. Yeah, I'm going to have to
So
look
you were
it up
incorrect
later.
there.
But my point is that you still need to refer to the Sunnah, to the Sirah, to the Hadith to
Can you
understand
provide me a verse
verses and
where it says that I have to refer to something else? Because you have yet to show me a verse where it's telling me
I've
that I have to.
I've already given the verse, which is basically where
Okay.
was it there?
So you said
An-Nisa,
verse 459, right? Nisa, right?
Yes,
Obey
that's
God
right.
and
Yeah,
obey the messenger and the people of
Basically,
authority.
that's
Then you if and God finish the verse because it says, and if you differed in something, then refer back to God and refer to the messenger, correct? If you differ,
I'm not differing
it
in
says
anything.
it's saying that if
I'm
you
not
differed something in between us and the people of the authority in between each other, to refer it back to God and the messenger, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
if people went to the messenger and they differed about something, is he going to judge from his own whims, or is he going to judge from hadith, or what? What's he going to judge from?
Of course, he's going to judge based on the Quran, obviously, and for this one.
Okay, then. So if somebody comes to me and I'm following the example of the Prophet, if someone comes to me, I'm not going to use any other book to judge between us, because God clearly tells us in the Quran that it's complete for all situations. So if someone is coming to me and say that, like, hey, man, I'm really upset at my parents, and I'm really I'm always fighting with my parents, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, this is what Bukhari said, and on this guy, upon this guy, and upon this guy, and upon this guy, and give them something that's close to what the Quran says. But I can just say what the Quran says. Be kind to them and do not obey them if they're telling you to do something that is idolatry or associating to God.
That's not the terminology we use when we refer to the hadith. We don't say Bukhari says so, we say the Prophet says so. So again, you're conflating
Bukhari. You're doing the references from Sahih Bukhari. Okay, so is he not part of the Sanad?
Bukhari, but Muslim, Tabari, not Tabari, Abu Dawud.
Is Bukhari part of the Sanad or not?
Yeah. Sorry,
when you're giving the chain. Okay, so in the chain of Sahih Bukhari, this is what makes it Sahih. It's not about the content, it's the chain. Is Bukhari part of the chain or not?
Definitely.
So if he's part of the chain, because
Yeah.
Bukhari heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody who the Prophet said. But then you have in Sahih Bukhari, Aisha saying that whoever says that the Prophet peed standing up, he's a liar. And then Abu Hurairah says that I saw the Prophet peeing standing up. So is Abu Hurairah a liar now?
I need to find that hadith. I haven't heard of that hadith before. The one that you quoted from Abu
Hurairah. Sunnism. That's the thing. So they forsake the Quran, right? They follow what the scholars are teaching them. Yet the majority of them, just like Christians, have not read the book that they say they believe in. The amount of Sunnis that I've found actually believing in Sahih Hadith or whatever, they have never sat and read it. Because if you read it, you find the amount of contradictions. You really need to be a special kind of human being to disregard everything that God said just to believe in.
Sure, I mean, we're not saying that
the Prophet.
Yeah, we're not saying the hadiths are infallible or it doesn't have any weaknesses. That is why we have.
But the Quran is.
And that is why we have the collections. I mean, the scholars of hadith who go through these hadiths and grade them. Okay,
scholars of hadith. So Hafs, Hafs, you know who Hafs is? Hafs an Asim. Who is he?
Yes, he's a reciter.
He's the recitation of Hafs an Asim is the most popular currently in the world. Correct?
Yes, of course.
And obviously his memory is extremely well, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So why is he deemed as a weak hadith narrator? Why do they not take hadith from Hafs an Asim?
Yeah, I'm not sure about this. I need to look it up, right?
So I think you came to this debate unprepared, because the Sunni you follow, the Sunnism you follow is what you see on the internet and what you see your scholars are telling you. But when you look at the material, you see a lot of weird things. And then they try to do apologetics. There's two verses missing in the Quran, right? There's two verses missing in the Quran. As per Sahih Hadith, there's a verse about stoning that's not in the Quran, and there's a verse about 5 suckles or 10 suckles. Where's the stone about? Please provide your evidence. Show me.
I think you're twisting that interpretation of that particular.
Where's the verse about stoning the adulterer in the Quran? I'll wait.
There isn't any.
Okay, then what? But the hadith clearly says, Omar says that there is a verse that we used to recite, and now is no longer in the Quran, but we still recite the verse.
Yeah, you're using an argument which the Christians love to use. So yeah. So
Okay,
how
but
does that?
no.
How
Listen,
does that?
it
How
doesn't,
does that justify your position that the
because the
Quran
truth is the
complete?
truth. It doesn't matter who says it. I'm not giving you Christian
Yeah.
apologetics. I'm telling you something
Yeah.
that's wrong in the hadith.
You are using an
Because what you're
argument which Christian apologists use. So how does
well,
that
the
prove
Christians
that
are
the
right
Quran is
there.
perfect?
The Christians are right
Yeah.
there. It's not in the
So you're
Quran.
telling
So
me
why
that
are
the
you
Quran is
doing
not
it?
perfect now. So you're
No,
telling me
the
Quran
Quran is complete. I'm not the one who's saying there's a verse about stoning. You're the one who's saying that. I'm not the one
I
who's
have no
saying it.
problems
I'm
with the
not
verse
making that
because
claim.
I have no
If a
problems with
Christian
the verse
comes to
being
me,
not available in the Quran because
well, that's your
that
problem.
particular report
Then
is,
God says that
it's
there
not a
is no
problem
falsehood.
because clearly
Oh,
the verse was edited out by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so everyone has forgotten about it. In fact, there's a hadith where Aisha says the verse on they couldn't find the
suckling.
text of yes, of the suckling and
Yeah, but
and a
even in
goat
that
food
hadith,
on
it says
the
it's supposed to be in the
yeah, but
Quran, and it's
that
not in
is
the
divine
Quran.
editing. I consider that to be divine editing, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has
So the Quran is not
made it
complete.
forgotten.
God,
It is complete.
Quran.
Who says that it's not?
How's it complete
There
if
is
the verse is not there?
there is the concept of nasikh wal mansukh.
No,
If you are
brother.
familiar with
If
it,
I picked up
that's
the
part of it.
Quran as
Yeah,
a Westerner and I
yeah,
read it, right, and I look
yeah,
at it, then
yeah.
there's a verse that's not there, unless if
No,
I
there's
ask a scholar.
yeah.
So God
So
says,
what does that have
"Allam
to do
al-Quran."
with anything? Yeah,
God says,
I mean,
"Allam al-Quran." God teaches the Quran. God taught the Quran, but now you're telling me I have to refer to another human being for him to tell me about my relationship about God.
what
And
does
God sent you a book to clear.
what does the presence of the hadith on the verses on suckling and stoning has to do with the imitability of the Quran? I mean, if it's edited out, then it's edited out. So what's the
But
problem with
then
that?
God
What
had
we
told
have
me to
now is
judge what's in the book, not
yeah,
outside of the book. So now you're
yeah.
telling
What
me
we
there's
have now
things
is
from the
what
book
we have now.
that is missing.
Yeah,
So the compilation was not
it
complete.
was
God says
edited
the
out.
book is complete, but
It was edited out. That's it. That's all it means.
oh, okay.
Okay. It
So
doesn't
when
mean that
God
the
says
Quran was
about
not
nasikh
complete.
wa mansukh, you said
Yeah.
a beautiful word, abrogated, right? So God says in
Yes.
regards to abrogation, the
Yes.
verse that you guys love to
Yes.
use about abrogating, God says
Yeah.
wherever he abrogates or makes something forgotten, he brings something better than it. So now he abrogated the
Yes.
stoning, as you said, it was taken out from the Quran. Did
Yeah.
he bring
Of course.
something like of it or better?
Yeah.
So what's
It's
the
in the
equivalent?
hadith. I mean, it's just because the verse is not available in the Quran doesn't mean that the ruling is
so
abrogated. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Quran cannot stand without the hadith.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that
That's
the
what
hadith
you're saying
complements the Quran.
unless in more,
Yeah,
more
you're
words
putting
and
words
less,
into
that's
my
what you're
mouth.
doing.
But
But
you
then
are
what are you
saying that the
saying?
Quran is
That's
incomplete. You
but
are
brother,
saying
that's
that
the
the Quran is
conclusion.
incomplete.
I'm asking you.
You're
Is the
saying that the
Quran can
Quran
the
is
Quran?
incomplete, even though the
I'm
Quran is
asking you.
complete
So the
according to you.
Quran is it complete if I need to rely on something else?
I
You're
didn't
running
say
away
anything
from
about
the
relying
answer.
on.
I
I'm
know
not
you're not
saying
saying
any.
anything because you
I'm
know
not saying
the answer.
anything about.
See,
I didn't
God
say
says
anything about relying on anything else. I said that without the hadith we can't understand the Quran fully, and there's certain
it
contexts which are
seems like I'm
missing.
understanding it fine.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
God says that
But that doesn't make the Quran incomplete or imperfect or anything of the sort, because the Quran is the
okay,
word of God.
if I told you I gave you a complete set, okay, but there's two puzzles of this
Yeah,
puzzle set. Two of them are not there.
I
Is it
gave you an
complete set?
example I gave you an example of Surah Al-Abasa. So without the hadith, how are you going to understand this verse?
Which verse?
Okay.
Abasa wa tawalla?
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
see,
he frowned and turned away. Yeah. So who frowned and who turned away?
The prophet.
And why
The prophet
he
turned
away?
and he
because
there was a
why
blind
did he
man.
turn away?
God clarifies it in the Quran.
That is in the
Clearly
hadith.
clarifies it.
That is in the hadith. That's in the
Abasa
hadith.
wa
How do you know
tawalla
he
in
was a blind
ja'ahu
man?
al-a'ma. God clearly says it. In ja'ahu
What's the
al-a'ma,
name
if the
of
blind
what's the
person came
name
to
of
him.
what's the name of the blind man, and why was he there, and why was he asking? Why was the prophet annoyed? Yeah,
this is the difference between me and you. This is the difference between me and you.
Exactly.
The name of the wives of the prophet.
You cannot understand this verse without the hadith.
You can. The Quran is complete guidance. So the difference between me and you, I don't need the name of the wives of the prophet. I don't need the name of that person. I don't need to know who Ali or Omar. Well, yeah, I don't need to, because I'm not going to be asked about.
You mentioned Aisha's name
because of your books. Well, one second. I'm not the one who sits there and look at what Aisha said, and you do. So I'm using your own book against you, and now you're laughing. So that's how funny it is to me as well.
Laughing
God
because
didn't talk about Ali
using
or
hadith,
Abu
and
Bakr.
you're relying on Sirah to understand the Quran, but you deny that.
Bro, the only time I mentioned Aisha is about Aisha saying that the prophet used to
now
be
you're
sitting
saying,
down.
So what exactly?
That's what you wrote.
That Aisha wasn't the wife of the prophet, or Aisha
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's irrelevant to me as a Muslim. As a person who submitted, it's completely irrelevant to me. That's not what I said. I said it's irrelevant to me. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think you get it. That's the problem. God says the people that defend the falsehood, they're deaf, dumb, and blind. That's what the Quran states. So now when I'm telling you about it's irrelevant to me who Aisha is, to you all, you don't believe she existed. But that's literally not what I said. So for you to understand the concept,
I know you don't say it, but that's exactly what you're implying when you deny
no,
the hadith.
that's not what I'm implying. I think you have a problem in understanding. So what I'm trying to tell you is Aisha, whether
this is exactly the
name,
methodology which Christian polemicists like
bro,
and the gang use. Okay, this is exactly how they use to go against.
Bro,
Islam.
what am I telling you? I'm telling you, to me, Aisha is irrelevant. I'm not going to be asked about her on the day of judgment. Are you going to be asked about who Aisha and what she said on the day of judgment?
I mean, how could you understand Islam or talk about the Quran?
Because Islam existed before the Prophet. The Prophet is teaching you Islam.
Who the Prophet was. Without understanding who the Prophet was, his wives, the background, his life, the wars that he undertook, these things. All this comes into play.
The reason why God does not mention the names of his Sahaba except Zayd, he didn't mention the names of the Prophet.
Of course, he doesn't mention any of the I agree.
He doesn't. I'll tell you why. Because your guidance to God is going to ask you how you treated people, how you relationship with God, and if you call them directly, if you were calling people to make the world a better place. Context. If you were, but if you're gonna sit there and say Aisha said this on the day of judgment, God's gonna say prove it. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna call your partners, and you know what God says about people calling their partners on the day of judgment when they have no proof on what they said other than so and so has told me so. And you know what their partner says? Man, I don't know you. I never saw you. I never met you. Bukhari's gonna be like, I don't know you on the day of judgment. That's the problem.
Yeah, you seem fixated on Bukhari and Muslim and you don't seem to realize there are many other hadith collections. I don't just rely on Bukhari and Muslim. Correct. I also have the Muwatta. I also have
Muwatta Malik. I know it.
Tatin Midi and all this. So why your fixation on Bukhari?
Because we eliminate something that you guys have a problem in, which is the weak and the da'if and the sahih. So I stick with the sahih. There is no contradictions.
There is a reason why they are called da'if and sahih and all this degrading that you mentioned. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
but Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, there's no discussion in that nonsense.
There is a discussion on Sahih Muslim and Bukhari. I mean, we have Al-Bani
in regards to da'if,
who has done tarjih on Bukhari, and he has regraded the hadith in Bukhari. Yeah. So some of the hadiths in Sahih Bukhari are also graded da'if. There are some which are graded.
So why don't we have
and so on? Yeah. So
why don't we have that science for the Quran though?
There's always an ongoing process to grade hadith. So I don't know what your fixation with Bukhari is.
So the problem is, if I'm saying that it's something from God and God is telling me that this is my guidance, it has to be clear and concise without contradictions. If someone is sitting here still analyzing,
I'm not saying that you should drop the Quran and just rely on hadith alone.
The question, I'll give you the simple question: is the hadith from God then?
It's from the messenger. The messenger is guided.
So it's not from God.
That's it.
Is it from God or not? It's simple.
Define what do you mean by God? If you mean revelation from God, obviously not.
Yeah. Is it revelation from God?
No, it's not revelation, but it's the actions and the words of the prophet who was guided by God. So are you saying that the prophet was not guided by God?
No, I'm saying the prophet was guided by God because the Quran clearly shows us what guidance is.
So this guidance, this behavior, this pattern of behavior, his speech, his word, his actions, everything is in the hadith.
Right. But
why shouldn't I follow the prophet?
Because following the prophet doesn't mean that you need following the prophet.
But you just say that the prophet was guided by God and he was the most honorable messenger.
Yeah, but
so you're telling me that
I want to understand the guidance, when I'm gonna follow the guidance, am I gonna follow the word of God or I'm gonna follow the word of other men?
I'm going to follow the actions of the word of God.
Where is that? Where's the actions? Where's the actions?
Yeah, it's in the hadith, like I've already mentioned.
So there's no actions in the Quran about who the prophet was. So I cannot understand the morals of the Quran.
No specific actions that I know of. I mean, definitely no details about his wife or his battles or how he walked.
There's no details about battles in the Quran.
Yeah. How he ate, how he slept, how he drank. Are all this in the Quran?
So that's
I need to know. I need to know all this. That's how I follow the message. How he slept, how he drank, how he ate, how he slept, how he interacted with his wives. Why shouldn't I follow the best of men who has ever walked this earth?
You made a claim? Why is he the best man? Why? How is he
Well,
the best man that ever walked?
you just told me that he's the most honorable messenger and that this is in the Quran. So
I
why
didn't say he's
shouldn't
the
I
most
follow?
honorable messenger.
So you're telling me
You're
that he's
making,
not the honorable messenger. So you're telling me
he's
that
an
the Prophet
honorable
was not
messenger.
honorable.
You said
You just
best
said it.
and you said
You
most.
just said it's the same thing to me.
Mensch? No,
It's
it's not the
same thing to
same.
me.
It's about
It's the
being
same thing.
critical. You're saying he's the best man. So prove to
Yeah,
me where God said
definitely.
he is the best man. Make a
Yeah,
claim and do
definitely.
it.
It is in. Let me see now.
Yeah,
I think I
please.
quoted the verse, didn't I?
No, from God. I don't want the word of man. Tell me from God. Where does God say he is the
Yeah,
best man?
Surah Al-Azab, chapter 33, verse 21. There has certainly
Okay.
been for you in the messenger of Allah an excellent pattern for anyone.
How's that
is in
makes
Allah and
him
the
the
last day.
best man? How's
Yeah.
that? When God
It
clearly
means,
states in
he's the
chapter
best.
60.
Yeah, it means he's the best person to follow. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay,
why
then in
shouldn't I
chapter,
follow him?
but
Give me a
I
good
feel
reason
like,
why I shouldn't follow the messenger.
no, I follow the messenger. I just don't copycat him and say that this is what he said when he
I
didn't
want to
say that. That's the
copycat him.
difference
Is it
between me
wrong?
and you.
Is it
But
wrong?
1 second.
Let's say if I do want to
Yes,
copycat him,
it is
is it
wrong.
wrong for me to copycat him?
Yes, it is wrong because God
Is it
says in the
forbidden in
Quran.
the Quran? Can you show me where in the Quran where it says it's forbidden?
I'm about to tell you. One, to
Yeah, go
rebuke
ahead.
you. 60-40, there's a good example in Abraham. So the same thing was said about Abraham. One. Number two, God says in Surah Al-Jathiyah, تلك آيات الله نتلوها عليك بالحق فبأي حديث بعد الله وآياته يؤمنون. These are the verses of God we recite to you in truth. So in what hadith after God and his messengers do they believe in?
In what stories, in what report? That's all. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that.
Okay,
Sunnah.
so you're believing in stories and reports. So we agree. These are stories and reports. It's not the word of God. I'm following God as my messenger, the prophet. He followed God. I'm following God.
You're telling me all stories and reports are false, without exception?
No, it's not needed for Islam. Is my point. I can find Islam without those books and reports, as many people did before the prophet. Yes, as many people found what Islam truly is without the Quran. Even the Quran is the shortcut to the mentality of how you're supposed to serve your Lord. All these other nonsense, it's sectarianism. And what God says about sectarianism is they're mushriks. وَلَا تَكُونُوا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Do not be of the mushriks. Those who differed in their religion, who became sectarians, الَّذِينَ فَرَّقُوا دِينَهُمْ وَكَانُوا شِيَعًا. And those who split their religions and become sects. The problem with hadith is because you guys have so many other books to judge by, and there's so many different judgments. When the Quran is clear, that's why you're Muslims. That's the problem.
That's why we have Isnad. That's why Kitab al-Rijal, to know which is false and which is true.
When did the Isnad become a standard, by the way?
I don't recall.
It was during the Mutawakkil period, during the time of the Abbasid, which is about 250, 300 years after the Prophet, because they wanted to distinguish between Shia hadith and Sunni hadith. And therefore, they started now to actually start using the Sanad. But at the beginning, it wasn't like that. And that's also evident in when you go to...
Small, it was easy to trace. Yeah, so...
No, well, actually, now we're going to go down in the actual history, which I don't think you know. So there's the four madahib, because each different city, different cities, there was a hub where they had a small set of hadith, which was not the same in different places, and they all had the Quran.
Different reports. Yeah, sure.
So that's why the madahib was different. So it wasn't a single unity because they did not rely on just the Quran. And when people started, what?
Why do we need unity?
Because God clearly,
why should
God
there
says
be,
that is the guidance.
Because
the human race is supposed to be
each place
one.
has a different. Each place has a different fiqh. Like in Malaysia, for example, we have a different fiqh. We have a different situation compared to those in Britain. They have a different fiqh. In UK, sorry, in the US, they have a different fiqh. So
why?
Why should the standard for Malaysia be applied to somewhere else in the UK or in the US? That is why we have fiqh. That is why.
So which is your madhab?
I don't follow any particular madhab.
Okay, so whose sheikh do you? Which imam? So you don't. So you're saying so which school of fiqh?
But mostly, I do mostly follow Shafi'i rulings, but I'm not a Shafi'i. By definition, yeah.
So what are your thoughts about Malik, who claims that if you are in ihram during Hajj, where it's forbidden for you to have sex with your wife because that takes you out of ihram, but if you have sex with a goat, then that doesn't break your Hajj? Is that what's your thoughts on Imam Malik saying that?
I've never heard of such a ruling from Imam Malik. Yeah,
it's not only Imam Malik. I think Imam Shafi'i also agrees with that ruling, that having sex with a goat does not break your fast as well.
I've never heard of any of the imams saying that having sex with a goat is
because that's the problem with these books that you guys keep trying to quote. You have not read all of them and you cherry pick. But I cannot do that in the Quran, as God says in the Quran. Do they have books
Yeah,
Do
you
they
need to
have
give me the
books that
source.
they
You
read?
need to give me. You need to give me the source which actually
Sure,
says
sure,
this.
sure. I
There's
will
none of
100%.
none of my
I
sources
will.
actually say
I
this.
will
Yeah,
show you right now. Right now.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
1 second.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm looking here. Give me 1 second. Mhm. Give me one moment. So I will show you right here, copy link, and I will put it in the chat, in a private chat, for you to click and read, and they have the sources for you there, where bestiality does not invalidate Hajj. So here's the link for you, and if you want, you can put it into the crowd. I just don't like people saying that this is legal, because
I've
Hajj is
never heard of
something
this.
where,
Honestly, I've
yeah.
never heard of any of the four madhabs saying that
Mhm.
the bestiality is permissible. Okay.
Because as I gave you the verse, the people of the book hide a lot of what they say and consume, and your scholars do the exact same things. So one, you have to tell me how many sahih hadiths do I need for me to buy it, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think this is talking about this ruling that
reading,
you
brother.
gave here.
Keep
Yeah, I'm
reading, bro.
reading
I'm telling you, it literally
it.
says that having
It
sex
doesn't
with
say that bestiality is permissible. It's just saying that whether if
it
anyone
doesn't break
commits this,
ihram.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
talking
So
about that specific incident. But that doesn't make bestiality permissible. Okay.
well, I'm not saying that it's permissible. I'm saying that it does not break ihram. When God says la jidala wala fusuqa wala rafs, so there is no debating,
Yeah,
arguing in Hajj. There is no fusuq. You cannot go and do these kind of fahishats in Hajj, and there's no rafs. There's no sex. So now
yeah.
they're
So
saying that no, sex with wives only, but sex with goats is okay. It's not going to break your ihram. I'm not saying that I'm not saying they're permissible. I'm saying that it does not invalidate your Hajj. Your Hajj is
yeah,
fine
okay.
if
So
you
it doesn't
have
break
sex with
ihram.
a
So
goat.
what? Yeah. So what's your point?
Or where did they get that ruling?
This is
So this
I'm
is
gonna have
the
to
religion
study
of
this.
Islam. Having sex with goats in
I'm,
Mecca is
I'm going
completely
to
fine.
I'm going to have to study this, but this has nothing whatsoever
Perfect.
with
Islam?
with permitting bestiality. Okay, this I mean um
Bro, I think you have it a little confused.
allowing for bestiality versus doing bestiality not which does not break. I mean, committing bestiality does not break ihram. Are two different matters. Okay.
But then I guess
This
you don't
is
understand
yeah,
what la jidala wa la rafsa wa
yeah,
la fusuqa means.
yeah. But basically,
Yeah, you
bestiality
don't.
is haram. It's forbidden. Yeah, it's not.
Okay,
So
that's
it's
just gone over 30 minutes now. That's just gone over
All right.
30 minutes.
Okay.
We'll go to the next stage. I think it will be 5 minutes. Let me just remind myself. Yeah, 5 minutes closing statements, and
Okay.
then we'll be 20 minutes Q&A. I have put the link in the chat. If anybody wants to come on and ask questions, feel free to come on in the
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
The link has been pinned on my YouTube channel, so you're most welcome to come on and ask questions. All questions have to be based upon the topic. We're not going to go to different directions. Whatever
Yeah.
the debaters have mentioned, that's what we're going to that's what they're going to be questioned upon. So no deviation from that. So, brother, you'll be first. Oops, let me just get rid of that. Bear with me. The Muslim apologist, I think you are first, isn't it? Or
am I first, or maybe the other brother can do it?
yeah, I think
can go first. Yeah, because I've already gone first for the opening, right? So let him
okay.
cover the closing. Yeah.
that's fine. All right. So as I was showing to you, that many people that claim that they follow Sunnism, they don't actually know what Sunnis, the whole concept of what Sunnah, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is. It's about the consensus, and it's about these traditions that they don't have it properly recorded, but they keep trying to give you this whole chain game that it's so bulletproof when there's so many contradictions. Now, the relationship with God is clearly detailed in the Quran for you how to be a good person and not to associate to God what you do not know. And God told you, do not follow and do not stand. وَلَا تَقِفْ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Do not follow what you have no knowledge in. So I know the Quran is from God, and everything else I have to rely on the people of their nonsense to say that these are things from God when they're clearly not. Now, God also says that the messenger said on the day of judgment that his people has taken the Quran forsaken. We have just proven that. The brother gave me 2 or 3 verses, and he couldn't even back it up with other verses. While I was anything that he was bringing up, I was bringing up verses from the Quran because God says, وَمَا يَأْتُوكَ بِمَثَلٍ إِلَّا جِئْنَاكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَأَحْسَنَ تَفْسِيرًا. And whatever they bring you as an example, we have brought you the truth and the best of explanation. So that's one. And God says to the Prophet in chapter 50, verse 45, وَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. And remind with the Quran who is scared of the appointment. I'm scared to associate things to God. This brother here, he's saying that the hadith is not revelation from God, which shows he doesn't know what Ahlus Sunnah al-Jama'ah actually is about, because they will tell you, no, the hadith is revelation from God. And they associate it back to God. And if it's not from God, this is literally what idolatry and shirk is. And not only that, my prayer is for God. I pray to God and I talk to God in my prayer. Yet they, in their prayers, they like to say, وَالصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيْكَ أَيُّهَا النَّبِيُّ. They start to address the Prophet directly. God says they'll give you in chapter 33, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but that's you asking God to do pray on him. But them, they talk to him directly. And then they'll even go as far, because of hadith, saying that the angels will convey the message and then the Prophet will answer you, which is giving him now the ability to hear all Muslims at the same time, anyone who's sending salam, and to also go as far as replying to them, which makes them what? Close to Jesus at this point to them. So unfortunately, in their own hadith, they say that there is a time where they follow the Christians and the Jews, but the Quran also clearly tells us the same thing, that these people are going to fail because every other community before them fell. Only the people that stuck to the rope of God, not to the rope of God and the rope of other things and other books. No, God gave us a single book. God says, did we give them books for them to study? No. God gave us a book which I'm sufficient with, the Quran. It has helped in all situations, and anyone who argues against the verses of God, مَا لَهُ مِن مَحِيصٍ. There's no exit for him. So it doesn't matter which scholar you bring forth, it doesn't matter which apologetics you guys want to use, the Quran will always 100% beat you, because the Quran never told you to refer to anything other than the Quran. I follow the Prophet. I follow the way of the Prophet. How did the Prophet judge his life and the people around him? With the Quran. So I use what the Prophet used. I'm not following celebrity worship. We do not follow what God didn't tell us to do, and not. We don't follow what God didn't reveal to other people. And simply, the Quran is sufficient for us. So I don't need that other nonsense, because God told me not to trust other nonsense and say that it's religious guidance. So it's no better than the Jews and what they do with the Talmud. That's my 5 minutes.
Okay.
All praise to God and peace with them. Okay, so yeah, so in the last minute, ladies and gentlemen, I just do really implore you, if you do believe that Sahih Bukhari is part of Islam, go read it from the beginning to the end. It's 9 times or 10 times longer than what the Quran is, much, much longer. And you will find so many contradictions. You will find so many lies. They tell you about adult breastfeeding, that an old man that is not married to a wife, she can suck on, he can suck on her boobs, and that's permissible. They tell you things about that an adulterer has to be stoned to death, and then apostates need to be put to death. All of these rulings are political. They're socio-political movements that occurred after the blessed prophet. And just like how the Jews failed 50, 100 years after Moses, just like how the Christians failed 50, 100 years after Jesus, the same people, literally in the same area, did the exact same thing after Prophet Muhammad. But God, out of the mercy, right, for his people, left the Quran untouched. He himself said the Quran is immutable. It cannot be changed. But the hadith is flexible. They can all of a sudden find a hadith that used to be weak and now give it sahih, as they did in the Mutawakkil period, where they say Muawiyah apparently was the Fir'aun of the community. That used to be a very strong hadith, but now it became a weak hadith, because people decide, as he said, Sahih Bukhari could be right or wrong. We were waiting 1400 years for people like Albani to come tell us what's right and wrong. So unfortunately, they failed the religion. Islam is much easier than what they try to show you. And God said he did not put difficulty in the religion. They make the religion extremely difficult. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salam wa salawatu ala jami' al-mursaleen.
Okay, 5 minutes to the Muslim apologist. Let me swap over. Okay, as soon as you start speaking, I'll start the clock.
All right. So yeah. So thank you to everyone who has participated in this debate. Thank you especially to my opponent. Although, to be honest, I do admire his zeal for the deen. So that's probably the only positive point that I could say about him. But other than that, I'm afraid that I cannot agree with his position that he's following Islam, because to me he's rejecting the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the prophet whom we believe to be rahmatan lil alamin. This is all from the Quran. And how are we supposed to be honoring the messenger if we do not follow his example? And as a famous hadith from Aisha says, the prophet's akhlaq is, the embodiment of the Quran. So whatever the prophet did, whatever the prophet said, whatever the prophet ate, slept, or whatever that he did throughout his life, these are all based basically from the Quran as well. So if you do not follow the messenger, how are you supposed to be following Islam? And bringing in the messengers of the past, okay, they were Muslims, yes, but again, this does not relate to basically the fundamentals of Islam, which is obeying Allah and obeying the messenger, which I've already quoted from Surah An-Nisa, right? So to summarize, my point is simple. As Muslims, we have been practicing the Quran and the Sunnah for over 1,400 years. And only in the last century, along came these people to say that, oh, we cannot rely on the hadiths, we cannot, Bukhari is this, Muslim is that, hadiths are contradictory, fabricated, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, we only rely on the Quran alone. But the problem with that position is that how do you rely on the Quran alone? How do you derive fiqh from it? How do you derive the actions and the morals that we are supposed to follow if the Quran doesn't, when I say it doesn't, I mean it does not specify in deep detail on how we are supposed to be emulating or following the directions of the Quran, like the Salah, for example. I've already give the reasons as to how this affects how it affects the rulings concerning the Salah. Okay, if the Quran does mention the 5 times of prayer, then how do you know how many raka'ah are there for each unit of prayer, and how do you know which raka'ah, what numbers of raka'ah are for each times of prayer? So that's just one example, and there's so many examples from from our daily lives which we cannot perform or we cannot do without reliance or without any adherence to the examples of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because if we do not obey the messenger, how can we claim to be following the Quran? Because the messenger Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam relayed the Quran. So another problem which these people seem to forget is that the Prophet was not there just simply to blurt out a message and that's the end of the story. So he just revealed a verse. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just revealed a verse and then the Prophet recited the verse and then that's it. That's the end of the story. We are not supposed to go anything more than that. We are not supposed to follow anything else apart from whatever it is that he blurted out like a parrot. So that's also another concern of mine, which I think these people, these Quran only or anti-hadith folk or whatever it is they want to call themselves, believe in. Okay, so all they can do is to point out or to deride Bukhari, Muslim, the hadith collections. But again, this also shows their I guess their narrowness of the mind, because hadiths are not just limited to Bukhari and Muslim. It also covers a large body of collections, which is not just limited to Bukhari and Muslim. Obviously, of course, Bukhari and Muslim are the most famous collections, but we have more hadiths than that. Okay, so like this, I think there's this hadith collection called the Sahifa of Hammam, if I'm not mistaken. That's also another hadith collection which Muslims have been following and practicing for 1,400 years without any issues until these people come along. And yeah, so my contention with them is that I don't
That's
feel
time,
that they are
brother.
following. Yeah, so okay, so just to wrap everything up, I don't feel that these people should be representing Islam I think they are coming up with their own religion, and yeah, that's pretty much what I want to say. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. There are a couple of people backstage, but I'm requesting that you have your cameras on. That's a must before you come onto the stage. If you want to put your questions in the chat, of course you can put them in the chat, and then we can bring them forward. But please, when you put them in the chat, make sure you write down who they're addressed for, so we know who to put the question forward to. And okay, and I can see a couple of questions, but I don't know who they're for. So please, when you do write a question in the chat, write down the name of the person who you want it addressed to. But like I said, there are a number of people backstage, but they're not putting their cameras on. If you go to the private chat, I have wrote in there, please put your camera on. Otherwise, you won't be able to. Okay. Okay, Abdullah got that one. So, Muhammad, there's a question for you. We've got about 20 minutes, I'm assuming, for Q&A, and hopefully we'll do a quick one. Would there be a chance for the Muslim apologist to respond to the question, or is it just directly to yourself and you answer it, and that's it, Muhammad?
Whatever you like. I'm cool with anything.
Okay, so what we do, if there's a question, possibly like a minute to reply, and maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds to respond back. How does that sound to both of you?
That's fair. Thank you, man.
Okay.
God bless you.
Okay, no worries. Okay, let me just put this forward. Bear with me.
Sorry, I did want to say one thing really quick. Thank you very much as well, Mens, for your kind words in regards to how I view my religion. So, and thank you for actually taking the opportunity to sit and talk. A lot of people, they try to avoid this debate, so appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.
So, Muhammad, there is a question for you from Abdullah. I don't know if you can see it. Can you read it? And then maybe.
Yes.
Can you? Yeah. Go ahead.
So he goes, how do you solve disputes or judgment in society that are not detailed in the Quran? There's always a verse that is going to address what you need to be, whatever is happening. So as you can see that when the different, in many histories, in many people, they always have what they would consider their constitutions, right? Which starts to evolve based upon the leader. So there's some leaders that they would understand the verse in a different way than the person next to them, but the judgment still has to come from the Quran. God clearly states that there is not a single thing that cannot be judged other by the book of God, because God talks about the master book, Kitab, and then the Quran has an example for everything within that master book, or the book that has all the judgments. So your question is actually a no question, because the Quran clearly tells you that it's capable of judging between the people and what they differed in. So if you're looking for exact details, those details, even within Sunnism, have evolved and changed based upon the society and what is required. But you could do the exact same judgments from the Quran, as God also told the Prophet to judge using the Quran.
The Muslim apologist, do you want to respond to that? You got about 30 seconds or?
Not really. I think this was more for the brother Muhammad rather than for me. But if you ask me, as someone who follows or who tries to follow the manhaj as-salaf, the examples of the three earliest generations of Muslims, of course, I would refer to the fiqh that is available within the scholarly sources, and also refer to the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, which talks about a specific topic. And let's say if it's something novel, that, like for example, let's say the smoking of vape, which is not mentioned anywhere in the Quran or even in the hadiths, then of course we refer to analogical deductions, okay, qiyas, and also ijma by consensus if ijma is not available. Yeah. So these are the things. So basically, the rulings of Islam of fiqh is via four sources, which is the Quran, the hadiths or the Sunnah, and by qiyas and by ijma. So these are the four sources where we derive our jurisprudence forms, and this is what I follow. Yeah.
Okay. next question. Okay, Hassan, can you just wave at me, please? And then you can turn your camera off. Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you, Hassan. Thank you for that. I'll be bringing you on next, Hassan. So please, when you come on the stage, introduce yourself, where you're from, and then, of course, who the question is for. So, Hassan, I'm bringing you onto the stage now.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yeah, nice and clear, Hassan.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. So I have a question for the Muslim apologist. So I can see that you understand that there are some problems with the hadith, but I think the only reasons, a few reasons that you stick to the hadith is because the primary reason you said that how would you know how you pray without the hadith? I think that's a valid question, but then the answer is also quite simple, that you don't really, no one ever needed hadith to know how to pray. Like, for example, you never learned how to pray by reading text. I never did. Your father never did. My father never did. My scholar never did. Imam Bukhari never did. Even
Hassan,
before Imam
is this
Bukhari.
A question? Is this a question or a statement?
So my
but
question is.
But you've already come back with the answer. So is there a question?
No, yeah, there's a question. So
okay,
since
put your question forward.
So my question is, so since no one ever needed a hadith how to pray, then why are you putting that as an argument?
Well, I don't really understand the point of your question, really, because when you say, my father or my grandfather or my great-great-grandfather pray, okay, and this was passed down towards through generations, where does the source come from? Obviously, it came from the traditions of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It was taught to them, and they passed that knowledge on to their descendants. Okay, and obviously, there's always those who do not have that luxury of tradition. Like, for example, reverts who have no idea how to pray. So how are they, let's say they reverted to Islam and they want to learn how to pray, how are they supposed to pray if they cannot rely or they do not have any sources of examples of prayer? If, let's say, there's no Muslims around them to teach them how to pray, for example. So again, all this is found in the hadith. There are books published by various Islamic publications which teaches you how to pray, and they always in Malaysia, I speak for the books that are published in Malaysia, especially. So all these books in Malaysia, which teach us how to pray, they always come with hadith references and citations. So
15 seconds.
So, yeah. So again, so it's not about traditions. It's about sources. It's about getting your information from the right source, and this is found in the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah.
Okay, so the guy Hassan made a good point in regards to people not actually reading books for a very long time to learning how to pray. But even if you do look at the books that people wrote, there is a much inconsistency, especially about with the Quran. So if you look at hadith, there's hadith that the Prophet didn't say Sami Allahu liman hamida when he came up. This is a hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah. Yet you have 8 different chains, different hadiths where the Prophet used to say Allahu Akbar when he stood up instead of Sami Allahu liman hamida. And then the things that they say at the end, Tahiyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa salam, this is not things that are found in the hadith, especially Allahumma salli ala Ibrahim kama sallayt, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad kama sallayt ala Ibrahim. These are things that were added later, especially because he mentioned Muwatta Malik. Muwatta Malik was writing on what people used to say at the end. And even in Muwatta Malik, there is it would be his grandfather, which is a direct Sahabi of the Prophet. There is a recorded saying of that Sahabi literally saying, what I'm seeing the people do now is nothing of what we did except the adhan. So even the things about the prayer, the things about the traditions and what they're saying, it isn't what the Prophet gave them. It's the little touches and niches and changes that everybody else put themselves in the mix. Now, when you look at the Quran tells you standing, prostrating. The Quran tells you to recite the Quran and to perform the prayer, which like that's in performing the prayer. God is telling you the ingredients of the prayer, and you find it in all religious Abrahamic communities where they stand. They will recite the book of God and they will prostrate and they will kneel. These are the steps that are in the Quran. Now, the Quran is not about adad al-rak'at, because even in the hadith, In the hadith, there's many hadith saying that he prayed 2 rak'ats in all of the salahs, and then there's hadith that he's saying that he changed it. But it's about the timing, as the Quran says. It's about the time that you spend in the prayer. It's not a 2-minute rain dance, as some people do, and then go outside the mosque and smoke a cigarette, because the prayer is supposed to stop obscenities and stop obscenities and munkar. So if you're not properly praying, then you're going to have fahsha or munkar.
Okay, we go to the next question. I think it's actually addressed to the Muslim apologist. Here we are, brother. Can you see the question?
Yeah, I can see it. He says he's asking why is Hajj limited to a few days when the Quran says that you can do it in multiple months. I've not come across any verse in the Quran which says that you can do it in multiple months. And from the example of the Prophet ﷺ, he only did it once in a year. So yeah, there's no record of anyone doing the Hajj multiple times per year. Okay, that probably would cover the Umrah, but not the Hajj. Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at chapter 2, verse 197, Al-Hajju ashhurun ma'lumat. Pilgrimage is known months, not a single month. So during the sacred months, you're allowed to do Hajj. And yes, you only do Hajj once a year. But you have 4 months to perform the Hajj. What ended up happening because of celebrity worship, they want to perform it the exact same time that the Prophet went, which is, they say, Dhul Hijjah. Right, but you have 4 months that you're permissible to do the Hajj in, which is clearly mentioned in the Quran. So God says, Al-Hajju ashhurun ma'lumat. Hajj is known months. فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ. So whoever, فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجْ. So whoever went towards the Hajj within these months, فَلَا فرث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. So there is no arguing, there's no debating, and there's no sex in the Hajj. So it's clearly 4 months, but they just take their Hajj from what other people tell them. They say it's 10 days when God in the Quran says it's actually 3 days is Hajj. They say that you have to stone the devil as if the devil is sitting on a rock, which is not found in the Quran. This is actually some idolatry, literally saying that the devil is this stone that we can that we can hit, and that's gonna give away our thing. So a lot of the things that they say does not align with the Quran. As I said, like they say divorce is 3 times when it's twice. They say that sunset is when night begins, when God is telling you when the night begins in the Quran. There's a lot of, they say that the middle prayer is Asr, when yet the night is when is the first prayer. So I don't know how they make that the middle prayer. There's a lot of inconsistencies with that say. So it's a question that is very excellent.
Okay, Brother Mehdi, I don't know if you can hear me. You'll be coming on next. Brother Mehdi, you'll be joining the panel now.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you guys hear me okay?
Nice and clear, brother.
Alhamdulillah. Just I have a little objection before I put my question forward. I feel like maybe the title could do with a bit of an edit, because, you know, personally for me, when I read like Quran verses or Quran v something, I think it's like already a lost kind of battle. There's nothing that's equivalent to Quran Kareem. So maybe that's just a little side note. I just wanted to make it, like, put forward a simple question that, let's say in a kind of an apocalyptic scenario, that you had to leave with 1 book, right? Or I'm going to be very gracious and give you guys 2 books. So no doubt you're both going to take Quran Majid, so you're going to take that with you, right? No doubt. 6,236 verses. On point, all of them should be followed. I don't think you guys have any dispute on that. Now, my question is, if you're going to say, let's say, Hadith or some other book, you know, it can be even a notebook, a pen, paper, that's also quite useful, right? If you need to take another book. I just want to get a sense that how do you quantify Hadith if you're going to put forward Hadith or if you're going to put forward something else? So, Jazakallah khairan, I'm just going to go mute there and I'm going to drop off and listen. Thank you.
Yeah, who's that addressed to, Brother Mehdi?
Both speakers.
Okay, Muhammad, you can go first, and Brother Muslim Apologist can go second.
Okay, so I think I understood his question. So you can only get 1 book of Hadith that is like there. You can't just say like Quran and Hadith. It's like which books that you want to take. So me, if I would go with the option of the Quran and a notebook and a pen. But if I have to take another set of books, I would take the Quran and the Bible.
Well, for me, I don't need to bring the Mus'haf of the Quran with me because I will have it memorized. Okay, so because
Do you have it
the
memorized
Quran is
now?
I would try. I would obviously before that particular incident or whatever devastating event that happened, I would get it memorized somehow, right? If I'm only allowed to bring one book with me, right? So I could, hit the rules, so to speak, and I don't need to worry about bringing a book, the Quran, the Mus'haf with me. So obviously, I'll get the Quran memorized. So that's one book free, extra free for me, right? So if I had to choose, I guess what I would do is I would probably bring a small book of the 40 Hadith by Imam An-Nawawi because that to me it's a summary of the ethics of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and
10
and that's
seconds.
probably the best, and that's probably the easiest choice to make if in a situation like that was mentioned.
Okay, there's another question. We can really quick through these. This one's for the Muslim Apologist. I don't know if you can see it. Go ahead.
So he says Quran 6 chapter 6 verse 145 refutes the additional haram foods Sunnis have. How do Sunnis explain Quran 6 145? Okay, let me bring the verse up because I don't memorize the verses. All right, so Quran 6 145. Okay, it says here Surah An-An'am, okay, 145. Say, O Prophet, I do not find in what has been revealed to me anything forbidden to eat except carrion, running blood, swine, which is impure or sinful, offering in the name of anything other than God. I don't think I have seen any Sunnis going against this particular ruling because I'm pretty sure no one has been eating carrion or running blood or swine, and this is also clear in fiqh where you're not supposed to eat any of these things. So so I don't really understand the point of this question actually, because we don't practice this as far as I know.
Okay, so there are certain things that are considered haram other than what God has considered. There's some certain things in seafood that you guys do not permit, and then there's also certain nuts. I believe that you said that it's not that is also considered haram to eat.
Yeah, you need to specify which hadith or which fiqh that you are deriving this from, because I may not be familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
Sorry, if you want, I can give you the sources. So there's many people that are like, you just have to put like so there are certain types of water animals which are forbidden, such as crocodiles, frogs, and otters, and turtles.
Sure.
So this is from again,
yeah, because they're amphibious.
Info.
Yeah.
So it's haram to eat them, right?
Yeah, because it's amphibious according to Shafi'i.
So you just proved it. There's other things other than haram. Where does it say that it's haram, bro? You just proved it.
No, because it's amphibious.
Bro.
This is.
Where does it say amphibians are haram to eat, bro? Like,
but that being said, there are other madhabs which say that crocodile is allowed. Yeah, so it depends on which fiqh you're following. Yeah.
Bro, it's, come on, man.
Yeah.
You're saying there's madhabs that are saying other foods are forbidden other than what God says, and the verse clearly says that. Like,
no, I'm saying that there are foods like, for example, like crocodile meat. There's some madhab, like I think it's Maliki madhab, it allows for crocodile meat to be eaten, but in Shafi'i, crocodile is forbidden. Yeah, so that depends on which fiqh you're following, and I have no problem.
Okay, so when God says I don't.
Okay, guys. I don't want this to be
forbidden.
Okay, we've got about a minute left. So what I'm going to do now is possibly give everybody, or both of you gentlemen, 2 minutes each for ending remarks, if that's okay, because the time has gone over. And whoever wants to go first, feel free to start your 2 minutes, and I'll restart the clock. Who wants to go first?
Yeah. Muhammad can go first. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So one argument that people always try to give us that this is something that's new But unfortunately, there's hadith where even Omar saying to the Prophet, like when they asked the Prophet asked for a pen and paper. The Prophet Omar said, "Sufficient for us is the Book of God." So there's that, and then there's no record of Abu Bakr, Omar, Ali, or Uthman, Uthman, Abu Bakr, or Omar in their narrations that they went and made a whole collection of hadith for people when they were the pioneers, and there were people who were really focused on delivering the message that the messenger gave them from God. So none of them put concerns, and there's also narrations about Omar banning certain people, saying hadith like Abu Huraira. And they say that this is a new movement as well. But if you look in Al-Shafi'i, he has a debate with people that they say raddu kullu al-akhbar. So the people who rejected all the narrations, which would be the hadith rejectors. And he had polite conversations, and they were existing at the beginning. And now, honestly, I do appreciate everybody coming along for this debate. But the problem with Sunnism is that it's so convoluted, and there's so many madahib and things, and even when you give them a verse clearly telling you that nothing is forbidden except what God has said, they will still say, "Oh, my scholar's saying this and that scholar." But God's religion is simple. I can eat a crocodile and not go into hell. When you're saying something is forbidden, that means now I took a sin. And now God says, who is more unjust than who says lies about God? So unfortunately, a lot of scholars that they consider scholars, they lie. They lie because someone else told them a lie. Similarly, how the Christians, the Jews do. All the Christians think they're saying the truth when they say that Jesus is the Son of God. And when you try to express to them wrong, logically, reasonably, their books, whatever, they sit and argue. And unfortunately, Sunnis do the same things. Sunnis in the last 100 years, they have not really won any proper war. They've been abused. Their countries have been in shambles, the majority of them. And now they're disconnecting from away from the religion only because they do not adhere to God. And they are having a lot of concepts of idolatry and shirk. So God's not giving them the victory. Meanwhile, us Quranists, is what they call us, we're winning.
Okay, 2 minutes to Brother the Muslim Apologist. As soon as you start speaking, I'll start the timer.
Yeah, so what I want to say is that Islam is simple, and Islam is basically obeying Allah and obeying the messenger. And for the past 1,400 years, we have various fiqh rulings and madhabs, and we don't have a problem with any of of these rulings, or basically any school of thought in Sunni Islam which does something which another school doesn't do, doesn't mean that the other school is wrong. It just means that there are differences of opinion, and we respect differences of opinion and diversity in fiqh and thought. So for example, like the example that was raised, which is crocodile meat. So in Shafi'i fiqh, it's disallowed. Okay, it's haram. It's forbidden basically. But in Maliki, because of the understanding of Imam Malik, with regards to life forms in water, and that the Quran says that all sea animals or sea creatures living in the water is halal. Therefore, Imam Malik classified the crocodile as something which is halal as well, because the crocodile comes from the sea. Okay, so it's just a matter of opinion and differences in understanding how these rulings are applied, and there's nothing wrong with the divergence in opinions, as long as you don't use it as a point of contention to disprove the Sunnah, to disprove the Sunni thought, the understanding of the Prophet's actions or jurisprudence altogether. So the problem with Quranists, I think, with Hadith rejectors, is that just because they find contradictions, or what they think are contradictions within the body of Hadith, they think that automatically everything else are lies and they must be rejected altogether. But that would mean the whole history of Islam falls, and the whole concept of Islam falls as well. Yeah. So yeah, to summarize, I don't feel that this is this approach is something which the Prophet has taught us, and I don't think, and I think this is actually a disservice to Islam itself. Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for organizing this debate. If there's anything else, hopefully I can accommodate in the future. I'll be happy to participate and go along with it. So thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you, and may God guide us all to His mercy and forgiveness, because the goal for us is to be with the Prophet in heaven, and for us to get there, we have to believe in God in the last day and what God tells us to believe, for us to be really good human beings. And I appreciate your kindness, I appreciate your hospitality, and may God forgive us all and bring us into His mercy and overlook our wrongs and things that we got correct. And all praise to God, and alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Thank you.
Thank you. The Muslim Apologist, final words. Hopefully, if you can limit it to 1 minute, and then we can end the show. Jazakumullah khair.
Yeah, so I thank my host, Brother Muhammad of COFFF, who has organized this at the last minute request, and I apologize for that, for pushing this onto him so suddenly. But you know, the debate was originally supposed to be hosted on MDD, but for some reason James didn't want to host it, so I decided on a last minute thought I decided to get this hosted here anyways. And to Muhammad from God, thank you for coming on. I mean, we have our differences, but I believe that we are both sincere and we do want what's best for Islam. However, like I've said earlier, I feel that sometimes your approach may actually do more harm than good. And the things that you use, you argue in favor of Quranism or Quran only position could actually harm Islam itself without your realizing it. And this is something which Christian polemicists themselves use. But I guess that's between that affair is, I guess, is between you and God. And yeah, and I'll leave it at that. So yeah, that's all.
Okay, fantastic. There are people in the chat saying they want to debate. If they want to have an opportunity to debate, you can come back there now on private chat. Leave your email address, and hopefully I'll get back to you. And hopefully we can organize and negotiate a future debate. So the stream will be open for about a minute. So quickly jump on and leave your email backstage. Or if you know any of these brothers, send the email to these brothers and then they can forward it to me. So I don't want to keep everybody up because it is quite late now. I think Muhammad is in a different location. The Muslim Apologist, I think it's like 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's like 7 p.m. here in the UK, nearly 7 p.m. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate everybody being polite and respectful in the chat. This is what COFFF is about. I am kind of like fair, but sometimes I am firm. But nevertheless, thank you to both of you for joining me. And I'm hoping to host more debates in the future, inshallah. So once again, thank you to everybody.
Yeah, and if you ever need a Quran alone debater, now you have my email, brother. And thank you very much. Thank you both, and good night, and peace.
Peace. Okay, thanks for watching.
ومن أخطر ما ينادي به الأشرار اليوم من دعاة الضلال تأثرا بدعوة الكفار نزع الحجاب عن المرأة. يريدون أن المرأة تنزع الحجاب الذي أمرها الله به وأمرها به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم، الذي فيه صيانتها وكرامتها وحفظها. ينادون الآن بنزع الحجاب، وأن تكون المرأة المسلمة مثل المرأة الكافرة. يريدون أن تنزل المرأة المسلمة من عليائها وكرامتها وتكون مثل المرأة الكافرة، مبتذلة مهانة، لا يحفظ لها كرامة ما دامت المرأة عندهم شابة يستمتعون بها بالحلال والحرام ولا يصونونها، وإذا كبرت سنها ألقوها في الملاجئ، ما له أسرة، ما له بيت، ما له أولاد، تلقى في الملاجئ وتلقى في بيوت المسنين، ما له من يراعيها، أو تعيش وحدها ما عنده أنيس تمرض وتموت ما يدرى عنها، ليس عندها إلا كلب تربيه يونسها الكلب. هذه المرأة عند الكفار وفي الغرب. أما المرأة عند المسلمين فكما تعلمون المرأة سيدة البيت، راعية البيت، مربية الأولاد، حافظة لمال زوجها، لها سيادة ولها مكانة، مكرمة مصونة، لا تسافر إلا ومعها ذو محرم يمشي معها، ما يحميها ويحفظها ويخدمها، ما تختلط مع الرجل، ما تخلو مع رجل لا يحل، ما تخلو إلا مع رجل من محارمها أو رجل تحل له كزوجها، مصونة، لا تختلط مع الرجال وتزاحم الرجال. هذه المرأة المسلمة التي تحتفظ بكرامتها ومكانتها عزتها. ولذلك صار مجتمع المسلمين ولله الحمد مجتمعا طاهرا نزيها، الرجال يعرفون أعمالهم والنساء تعرف أعمالها، وكل يقوم بعمله اللائق به، ويحصل التعاون. إذا ضيعت المرأة وأخرجت عن طبيعتها ضاع المجتمع، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. وليس ذلك في صالح المرأة، هذا مضرة على المرأة، مضرة على المرأة، إنها تشتغل طول النهار في العمل، تكد وتكدح في المصانع، في المتاجر، في الوظيفة، وهي امرأة ضعيفة تحيض وتحمل وتمرض، ما تستطيع. فهم يريدون أن يغيروا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها، لكن أنى لهم ذلك؟ لا تبديل لخلق الله أبدا. الله خلق الرجال وخلق النساء وأعطى كلا ما يليق به، فليحاول يغير خلق الله لن يستطيع هذا. فعلى المسلمين أن يتنبهوا لذلك وما يراد بهم.